What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of The Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody. This is where I give commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. Thank you to the subscribers that have joined in. We're at 85. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Let's get started with tonight's episode of Friday Night Smackdown from Music City, USA, with special guests in the audience. We got Kid Rock and we got Rick Booze. As, of course, Shinsuke Nakamura rocking it with Jeff Jarrett, the king of the mountain, who got a better push in WCW and TNA, might I add. And also, we got some more guests I'm going to talk about. But let's open up. Let's talk about the first match of the evening. We have Magic Mike Moss. That's what we will call him from now on. Magic Mike Moss versus Sir Kofi Kingston. And he had a special guest, Big E Langston from Raw, former World Heavyweight Champion from Raw, is a special guest on SmackDown tonight as we prepare for the Royal Rumble. We have Kofi, who put on a great show against Magic Mike Moss. I will call him that because he's better at looking like Magic Mike than he is a jokester. His jokes suck. But either way, and so does this little Corbin angle, even though Corbin is undefeated. But nonetheless, Kofi had a great showing against Madcap Moss. And of course, Madcap Moss took a little bit of control during the commercial break, but Kofi fought back in a trouble in paradise for the Kofi Mania. Let's get it on. Kofi starts us off strong, and Big E gives Magic Mike the big ending, just in case Corbin was thinking about coming in. Also, I forgot to mention tonight, excellent trailer for the up-and-coming WWE 2K22 game. That trailer was awesome. We saw The Undertaker in a music studio. We saw Rey Mysterio and his son Dominic. Rey Mysterio on the cover. And Roman Reigns stole Drew's sword, but somehow Drew got it back. I want to know how that story ended. But either way, moving on to the next match, we have a rematch from last week, Aaliyah versus Natalya. And Natalya was very aggressive tonight, but her aggression caused her to get disqualified. But she didn't care. She continued to beat down Aaliyah until the savior, the protector, Xia Li, came out to save Aaliyah because Xia Li does not like vultures and she hates bullies. Well, can somebody please put her in an angle against Sonya Deville? Jesus, that bitch. Hold that thought. Before we get into Sonya Bretch Laville, let's talk about the tag team of Luce Mathoris, if I said that correctly. Hopefully I did. I apologize if I did not. Versus The Raid. And the match was very competitive. Short but competitive. But the highlight of that match to me was when Eric went for a combination of the world's strongest slam with a combo of the powerbomb to both members of the other tag team at the same time. One guy was over his shoulder, was around his waist, his chest, and the other one was over his shoulders, and he threw them both down. That is one of the highlights of the night. And the ratings, Viking Raiders, won the tag match. Short, competitive, but the Raiders come out victorious. But now let's get into some more cricket angles that I wish would end. That angle being Sonya and Naomi. But this time it is Naomi finally getting a fair match against Charlotte Flair. Or at least we wanted it to be fair. And it wasn't fair. It was fair to Flair, but not to Naomi. Because Sonya Deville, that bitch. I said R. I put the R in the middle of it. But this bitch is getting on our nerves. Can we please end this angle? Please. Jesus will be back before this angle with Naomi and Sonya ends. By the time this ends, Jesus would have came back and gone. Ugh. But Sonya Deville obviously has some sort of beef with Naomi that we won't see put settled. Even Michael Cole said we need to put a stop to this. And he's right. It needs to stop. But nonetheless, Charlotte took short control of Naomi until Charlotte went for the figure eight and Naomi pushed her out and Charlotte ended up hitting Sonya Deville. And so Naomi would go for the rear view, which is a move that, with all due respect, I like Naomi as a competitor and as a person, but that move does not look like it hurts, with all due respect. But either way, rear view, Sonya Deville refuses to count the pinfall. And of course, that leaves room for Charlotte to recover and go for the figure eight. And that bitch, Sonya, rings the bell and just pulls out of Montreal and Nashville, Tennessee. Ugh. But thankfully, they will face off next week. But please end this. I'm sick of Sonya. From a scripted standpoint, please end this already. So Naomi can move on and let's find out what's going on. I'm sick of this Tish. This is some bull Tish. But either way, moving forward, I hope we see Naomi kick Sonya's sa. I'm swearing backwards, so I don't technically swear. So I hope Sonya gets her sa kicked. Moving forward, speaking of ridiculous angles, we have in Zayn. What in the helicopter is this? So basically, Sami Zayn is gonna test himself because Jack Ooh, that was a close one. That was a close one. I almost swore. I almost swore for real. As I was saying before I almost had an accident. As I was saying, Sami Zayn wants to try and reiterate the show, the Donkey Show, starring, or should I say, Jack Ash with an S-H. But the show Jack Ash features Johnny Knoxville doing crazy things because apparently he has a pain fetish. He needs to go work in one of them basement videos that are on the internet that I do not endorse. But either way, of course, Johnny Knoxville has obviously been made famous for having a fetish for hurting himself. Masochist. But either way, Sami wants to try and reiterate that by tasing himself. And the fans boo the whole thing because they know what I know. And that's the whole thing is fake. Sami is faking. He did not tase himself and he knows he did not tase himself. So Johnny Knoxville comes out and scriptingly tases him for real because let's face it, he didn't tase him for real. But he, from a scripted standpoint, tases him for real because Sami is faking and the fans see right through it. I see right through it. Stop insulting our intelligence. But either way, Sami, from a scripted standpoint, gets tased and thrown over the top. Sami is going to get eliminated by Johnny Knoxville. Bet. Next on this angle, it's just real quick because it was a very one-sided burial. I mean, just the burial that we saw CM Punk do on AEW, which I reviewed a couple of days ago, that was a popular burial because we wanted to see Punk win. But tonight, Ricochet versus Sheamus. That was that was a burial. I'm just gonna say, I'm just gonna come out like that. Sheamus versus Ricochet. Ricochet got buried tonight. No, barely any competition. Just totally buried tonight. That's all I got to say about that. But Ricochet was buried tonight. He really was. He was buried. I gotta say that. Total burial. So I wanted to talk about this last because it opened the show and ended the show, and that was Roman Reigns coming out with the Usos as the Usos introduced Roman as he celebrated in the opening part of our broadcast 508 days. 508 days, which breaks Brock Lesnar's record and is soon to break Walter, now Gunther's, record. And why did you guys show that commercial? For those of you who saw the full show tonight, why WWE did you show that commercial and that stupid name? That's just ugh. Oh, help. Oh, Jesus, take the wheel. Jesus, take the wheel. But either way, we celebrate Roman, and I will say if they don't destroy Walter with the stupid character, even though that name is stupid, if Walter still is unstoppable, I still think Roman and Walter would make an excellent dream match, which Roman Reigns would win. Let's be honest. Roman Reigns would totally wreck, because I don't like to say the word that rhymes with crash, that starts with an S and M. But either way, Roman would win that match in my personal opinion. But tonight, Roman celebrates 508 days. Seth Rollins comes out with a bathrobe on. It looks like a bathrobe. And Seth Rollins wears suits that, like Tyler Perry's Mr. Brown, Seth Rollins wears suits that if you turn the lights off, it will glow in the dark. But Seth Rollins comes out and reiterates his point from last week about the Usos fighting his battles, just like Seth and Mox. And Seth mentioned Dean Ambrose as Moxley. And that will not be the first time, because later on that night, the Usos would face Seth Rollins in a surprise appearing Kevin Owens. Stipulation has it that if Seth lost, the Usos win, Roman gets a vacation. But if Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens wins the match, then Roman must fight one-on-one, which I thought should have happened in the first place, because everybody needs to see Roman prove that he can beat Seth one-on-one. And my money's on Roman. But tonight, the fans were really with Seth Rollins, which doesn't happen often. Kind of probably because it's Nashville, Tennessee, and we saw Summer Rae also, and I thought Summer Rae was going to jump the barricade, but Xia Li did. But either way, we saw a great tag team match. It was very, very even in the early stages. During the commercial break, the Usos isolated Kevin Owens, but Kevin Owens fought back. We saw Kevin Owens is a huge fan of D-Generation X, and Seth tags back in, goes for a suicide dive, and fights with Jimmy Uso before tagging back in Kevin Owens. And I gotta say, Kevin Owens' pop-up powerbomb has become a bit underappreciated because everyone's kicking out of it now. When it was fresh, it was one of the moves that you had to be very resilient to fight out of. But now anyone can kick out of that move. It's not as hurtful as it is. So the Usos continue to fight. We see a bunch of super kick fests, and Seth Rollins fights back when he finally gets tagged in. And just before he could go for the curve stomp, as the fans sing along to his song cry theme, Roman comes out and delivers the Thanos punch. Now, because Roman is heel, I don't like to call it Superman punch. It needs to be called the Thanos punch because he wears the Thanos glove. But either way, Seth and Kevin Owens win by disqualification, which means Seth will face Roman one-on-one, but Seth, my money is on Roman. The other question is this. Do you think Seth Rollins is turning babyface? Or maybe it's just a night where Seth is just everyone's favorite tonight? What do you think about tonight's broadcast? What do you think about the question I just asked you? Let me know in the comment section below. This is the Danny Show, all the time I have for you today, and I'll be with you Sunday for a review on Royal Rumble 2000, review from the past. See you soon.